Or Orion did make it over from Warhammer 2 fully intact into Immortal Empires. He lost some of the improvements that were made, I believe, with the Twisted and Twilight DLC, when Ariel, who's also here, was released as DLC, of course, alongside the Sisters of Twilight. But yeah, today, Sultan going to be taking Orion against the Tomb Kings. Middle-of-the-road faction, Wood Elves, versus one of the top Domination factions in the Tomb Kings. Orion, Ariel, power couple leading the way, and then just a bunch of Dryads to back them up. We've got 4 Dryads here, and then the Lost Sylvan Knights, Regiment of Renown Stags on the low ground. They're, of course, ethereal, now having Frostbite and pure AP damage. Already had pretty good AP before, but now are quite strong. On the opposite side of the field, we've got Tomb Kings, Ark in the Black leading the way. Down here on the low ground, we've got Nikesh's Scorpion Legions, Skeleton Archers, and Tomb Guard with Halberds. And then up here, whole mess of Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Spears, couple Screaming Skull Catapults, as I said, Arcan and the Tomb Scorpion, plus the Regiment of Renowned Skeleton Archers. Let's now look at the reserve for the Wood Elves reserves. He's got the Regiment of Renowned Spear Dancers, the Loex Tricksters, single Sister of Thorns, single Hawk Rider, 2 War Dancers with Azrai Spears, 2 Sword Dancers, and 3 Starfire Shafts. For the Tomb King's reserves, 2 Sepulchral Stalkers, including the ROR Eyes of the Desert, a single Tomb Guard Halberd, Shabti Greatbow Regiment of Renown, 1 regular Shabti, 4 Nehekara Horsemen, and 2 Carrion. And here we are. So, getting back to Orion, he got a significant speed buff in late Warhammer 2. Again, I believe it was with the Twisted and Twilight DLC, but it says here that he can fire while moving, but I don't know if he actually can. I think there was some other improvements made to that effect when the Wood Elf rework was done, and I want to say it was maybe extra responsiveness or maybe enabling him to fire on the move, but we'll try and keep an eye out here, see if that effect is actually real, or if it's just there for show on the unit card and it's actually not working correctly. But Eyes of the Desert, Sepulchral Stalkers are deployed here. Magic damage on their ammunition will make them very effective at shooting the Lost Sylvan Knights if need be. Both players just kind of squaring up right now. Screaming Skull Catapult will be okay, firing at the Dryads, certainly. Should be able to make some okay contact. Does armor-piercing magic damage. Debuff their leadership, of course, but Ariel's an interesting choice. I really haven't used her much at all in Immortal Empires, I'll be honest. Wood Elves is not a faction I would play that much anyway, but on paper, she should be really strong right now. I mean, she does have access to Dweller's Blow, which is currently the best spell in the game, as well as Apotheosis for a nice, cheap heal. More heals from Berry Wine, and of course, Acorns of the Oak of Ages for 100% AP, pretty decent explosion effect. Of course, she herself also causes terror. Decent combatant, nothing too crazy. Let's take a look and see how she can get on here. Orion, I would imagine, has a pretty trimmed down kit. Actually, not so much. He's got Hounds of Orion, Hawk's Talon, he's got the Cloak of Isha, and the Horn of the Wild Hunt, I believe. So everything together. Horn of the Wild Hunt all the way up to 60% charge bonus extra when it gets used. Eyes of the Desert are going to fire in on Ariel. That means, though, that the Lost Sylvan Knights are not taking that damage. Ariel does take a big hit now from the Tomb Scorpion. Arcan also charges in. Screaming Skull Catapult, trying to make contact with the Lost Sylvan Knights, but kind of failing at the moment. Sepulchral Stalkers here also firing, so pretty important critical engagement. Looks like we've got the Hounds of Orion unleashed somewhere. Yep, here in the center. A little bit hard to see on that white ground texture, but Sisters of Thorn also being deployed, moving up and around to try and shut down those Screaming Skull Catapults. Lost Sylvan Knights charging into Sepulchral Stalkers. The regular Sepulchral Stalkers still do magic damage in melee, so it's probably not going to be the best engagement for the Sylvan Knights. Meanwhile, Ariel was able to mostly get away here. Horn of the Wild Hunt was popped, though, so it's going to increase charge bonus. Sisters of Thorn all the way up to 48 charge. Pretty good for skirmish-type cavalry. They're going to come in here and shut down this Screaming Skull Catapult in a big hurry. They are a little bit overextended, though, so we'll have to see how they do there. Horn of the Wild Hunt, of course, and Apotheosis. Apotheosis healing those Lost Sylvan Knights up quite nicely as they kind of sustain against the Sepulchral Stalkers. I mean, thankfully, oh, that nasty volley from the back as the War Dancers try and get in there. Loex Shroud buffing up their speed so they can actually catch Eyes of the Desert effectively. Screaming Skulls have just been raining in this whole time. We take a look over on that low ground. Tomb Kings were able to seize this objective, then leaving a couple of infantry there. Yeah, there's no lore attribute for Lord Nehekara as well, so these Screaming Skulls won't get infinite ammunition, but nice hit for the Sisters of Thorn Then move on, or is this the second unit? I believe this is still the same unit, right? Yeah. Got some pretty good damage value, just running around ping-ponging between these different ranged units for the Tomb Kings. Sisters of Thorn do have great physical resistance and decent enough melee stats. They're kind of a little bit of a hybrid unit, although they are quite expensive having those specialist abilities. But anyway, Ariel heals herself back up, and Orion and her are going to try and fight in somewhat of a cohesive blob here. It looks like Arcan came in, summoned some skeletons, and then ran off. Yeah, he's still hanging around here somewhere. Looks like he's running there into the back line. The Sepulchral Stalkers once again redeploy. They're managed to get their paws on the Sisters of Thorn, and of course with that magic damage will tear them apart very quickly. But we're going to see a Dwellers Below get unleashed here, I believe. Nope, looks like they noped out and casted something else there. Not really sure. The Hounds of Orion in the back line as well, trying to go after some of those Tomb Guard, and there's the Dwellers Below. A little bit risky to charge in the Lost Sylvan Knights into that, but I guess they're not actually going to take that much damage from the Vortex. The contact effect, on the other hand, will do quite a bit to Arcan the Black, and of course will delete all these Skeleton Spears as well. Those Loix Tricksters, though, getting shot from Skeletons from multiple directions. Screaming Skulls and whatnot should be tough, but man, Arcan took a lot of damage from that. He's going to try and throw down one more summon here. The Frostbite of the Lost Sylvan Knights slowing him down enough that Orion can actually catch him. I think Orion was at like 90+ speed before with the Sisters of Twilight rework, but I'm not really sure. I'd have to go back and actually check. Someone maybe who still has Warhammer 2 installed can pull up and check for us, but anyway, Dryads making it through to the second level, getting on those Skeleton Archers. We see some War Dancers now being deployed here. Rush this low ground and cut those Scorpion Legion to ribbons. Got some Hawk Riders coming in here as well for the Wood Elves. So let's see. The Sepulchral Stalkers turn once again to eliminate the physical resistance Wood Elf Cavalry, but Sisters of Thorn back from out, once again occupying this Screaming Skull, and they have just about paid for themselves in terms of damage value, not to mention the support value of those abilities, of course. But Dryads getting rear charged by the Hekara Horsemen. Should be able to route them no problem and free up those Skeleton Archers. Skeleton Archers, ooh yeah, and the Sepulchral Stalkers both will be great at shooting Orion here. Given that he really hasn't used up any of his ammunition, barely any of his ammunition, I'm going to assume that he isn't actually throwing on the move. Let's see. I mean, that was a pretty short little charge there. Didn't have a lot of space to throw, but we'll try and keep an eye on that through the late game if Orion's able to survive this engagement. That is. Certainly is taking quite a bit of damage. A little bit of yeah, that's the Acorn Blast, I believe. Yep, gives the Awakening of the Wood speed debuff. The Acorns of the Oak of Ages. Another Apotheosis on Orion, just healing him back up. Sisters of Thorn also on the rear charge here, just to yeah, get some extra hits on these Eyes of the Desert. Love their purple color scheme, by the way. Fits very nicely alongside Arcan the Black. But Ariel continuing to fight here. She's just about at her healing cap. Of course, Orion, when he gets low enough to activate the Cloak of Isha, does give him 20% damage resistance and a significant heal as well. Orion is using his Javelin, at least standing stationary here, to throw at Arcan the Black, but as he is doing that, he is also taking significant damage from the Eyes of the Desert, so a little bit of a give and take there. Another Dwellers Below from Ariel to harvest a ton of value. Spirit Leech on her from Arcan the Black, but looks like Orion did indeed fall there. Arcan the Black also off the field. I'm not 100% sure. Did he die as well? Yeah, Lord recently died -16, so those look like Lords for both sides. Kick the can, but in this sort of second quarter, if you will, maybe, yeah, I mean, in terms of victory points, certainly second, third quarter, War Dancers come in. They're able to effectively blend Skeletons, you know, just crack them open for some bone marrow stew or whatever. Interesting to see, too, on this multiplayer UI mod that it seems like the Screaming Skull catapults have actually done quite a bit of friendly fire damage. 413 friendly fire kills. There's also quite a bit of Winds of Magic left for the Tomb Kings on the table, whereas Ariel has been able to dump out quite a bit of her ammunition. She does have a Greater Arcane Conduit for extra spell mastery. It's going to increase the effectiveness of her spells like that Dwellers. So interesting to see. I hadn't, again, used Ariel myself, but it actually makes a lot of sense taking her in Domination, at least in matchups where she's not going to get sniped. And certainly here, she almost did get sniped. Was able to hold. Speaking of holding, the War Dancers, both spear and sword variants, now fighting here with Ariel, managed to draw those Nehekara horsemen into a pretty deep overextension. Not to mention the Tomb Scorpion as well, going to be suffering pretty badly against the anti-large AP of those War Dancers. I actually really like the War Dancers in some, again, some matchups. As a reserve unit, that high speed means they can get onto the objective very quickly, and in a situation like this, they're able to come establish a presence here, kind of secure this objective, cut up a couple of units, secure that lower ground objective as well. Some more spear dancers moving in to help against those Nehekara horsemen. And then Ariel continuing to act as support here. Reasonably decent combatant as a single entity as well, and just generally able to provide a little bit more magic. 7 Winds of Magic is what, like 1 more Apotheosis? Yeah, 1 more Apotheosis, so going to have to be very tactical about how she uses that. And of course, as soon as I say that, she's just going to pop it on this War Dancer Azrai Spear here, fighting the Eyes of the Desert, doing a lot of damage to them and actually pushing them back there. Tomb King player doing a good job repositioning and not just letting the unit die. Pretty important when you're playing non-mortal units to actually retreat them when they start taking a lot of damage. Like something even recently, I've been playing a little bit of a Chaos campaign on the side here and there, and even like demonic units in campaign, you want to retreat them when they start taking a lot of damage so that they don't just fully crumble and you can save them for the next battle, potentially. But Screaming Skulls do land some more shots there. You can see the friendly fire kind of ticking up. Even the Eyes of the Desert themselves doing a little bit of friendly fire damage. We've got some more Dryads moving in now. Here we've got some more Azrai Spears. Yeah, they had an attack order on those cavalry, I think. I'm not really sure, but just generally saturating in on these skeleton units, pushing them back, so things are looking pretty good for the Wood Elves for the time being. Had quite a bit of forward pressure, and still have 2 objectives fairly well secured here. Eyes of the Desert are still threatening, though. A little bit of ammunition left. Still got 10 unit models online. We've also got some Carrion swooping in here as well. Carrion count as large. They're not going to be subjected to the missile block, or sorry, the anti-infantry bonus of the War Dancers, but War Dancers pop that melee defense buff just so that they can hold on this objective. That's actually really smart. It's sort of like a weapon stance, I guess you could call it. Yeah, it significantly lowers their melee attack, but buffs their melee defense. Of course, the anti-infantry bonus still applies, so they have, you know, a good 24 attack, which is enough to make contact with certain units. Tomb Guard do have enough defense that they can hold out somewhat, but I definitely like the use of that melee defense ability. Not an ability you saw used at all in Warhammer 2, really, or in very niche circumstances, but definitely in Domination, it seems like it makes War Dancers a very tanky unit. 62 melee defense. I should say tanky in melee. I mean, certainly they take charge damage or magic damage or range damage. They're still going to fall over very quickly, but in a situation like this, we've got Tomb King's missile units mostly occupied and on the run. Definitely can prove decisively successful. So holding off some more skeletons over here. We've got more Dryads. Dryads also just a fantastic unit overall. Can do enough damage to deal with certain skeleton infantry, and having Vanguard makes them also great at just reinforcing the objectives here. So let's see what they can do. Bolton definitely in a great position. Somehow, though, I mean, army damage value-wise, I guess because he lost Orion, so much damage has been done to Ariel. Technically, he is behind on that front, but he does have more gold value on the field there. You can see, and yeah, has killed quite a bit more enemy entities. Kind of makes sense, actually. Tomb King's just having a way higher model count army overall. But yeah, War Dancers continuing to hold quite successfully, I might add. Starfire Shafts move in, gonna get some nice shots into Carrion. Carrion, I mean, 27 attack, 47 weapon strength. Starfire Shafts do have 27 defense, so they'll be able to actually hang out okay in that engagement, not take too much damage from the Carrion. I have to kind of keep that in the background. Yeah, it should be a fairly even trade, honestly. More Nehekara horsemen deployed for Tomb Kings. Question is, can they actually get onto the objective to contribute in a meaningful way? We've got another Tomb Scorpion out on Vanguard as well. Low-X Tricksters, likewise, I think. Do they have Vanguard as well? No, I'm thinking of the ROR Regiment of Renown Wildwood Rangers, which do have Vanguard, I believe. Anyway, Ariel's still holding out here. Maybe I'll end up making the title and thumbnail about Ariel, because I feel like I rarely see her, but she did very well in this particular battle. and definitely impressed me enough that I might have to try her out for myself in some Wood Elf battles, in Domination especially, given how strong her ability set is. You know, with Apotheosis and Dwellers Below, and come on, I'm trying to get a face shot. She keeps turning. There we go. The great lady of terror of the Wood Elves. Yes. Slapping down those skeletons. Screaming Skulls still firing in here at a distance, but mostly at this point it's looking pretty rough for the Tomb Kings. They're really having a hard time amassing enough capture weight. Seize any objectives. Wood Elves got good defensive position here. Got plenty of units to defend over here, or at the very least block up the Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings also relatively slow. Looks like we got the Sisters of Thorn out once again. They already paid for themselves once, so this is cost effective to deploy them once more. And they're going to get shot a little bit by the Screaming Skulls, perhaps. Nope, looks like it's going after the Loix Tricksters instead. Could pop that Stock and Unspottable ability, that Loix Shroud, if they have it off of cooldown, which would protect them somewhat from the Screaming Skulls, but I'm not really sure. We've got some Ushabti coming out now at this point. Aren't the Realm of Souls like summoned Ushabti, are they? No, they're not. Must have lost track of what happened to those guys, but anyway, Ariel still fighting it out with the Tomb Scorpion here, doing a decent job, I might add. She is very low, though, at this point, in terms of HP. There you go. Tomb Scorpion also taking significant armor-piercing missile damage from those Starfire shafts, so contributing quite nicely. Sisters of Thorn getting to those Nehekara Horsemen. Shield of Thorns on themselves for damage reflection should help them win this engagement pretty decisively. Even though their offensive stats aren't that great, that damage reflection certainly will help them cut up those Nehekara Horsemen. Dryads also moving in. Engaging the Tomb Guard here. Yes, very effectively. So really nice to see this replay actually from Sultan doing so well in a matchup that some might consider tough. I mean, I certainly think Wood Elves have some great tools here, and this build was very interesting for me to watch. I feel like I actually learned some things here. I mean, I love to see this great usage of Sisters of Thorn. They've been one of my low-key favorite units for the Wood Elves for a long time. Also, a big fan of the usage of Ariel here. I think that's pretty unique and cool. Actually seems quite good, so the only thing that's a letdown is Orion. I really hope Creative Assembly implements some of the improvements that were missed on the port from Warhammer 2 to Warhammer 3. Help Orion just be that much better and actually usable. If he had higher speed, especially, he would be very good in Domination. But there you go. Shabti getting rear charged by the Sylvan Knights back on the field. They get crumbled out very quickly. And at this point, it's really not looking good for the Tomb Kings at all. Sisters of Thorn eventually lose out to the Sepulchral Stalkers. No surprises there, but not before getting quite a bit more damage value. Just eating up those Nehekara Horsemen and such. On the low ground, yep, just War Dancers and Dryads still defending. It's possible the Tomb Kings, if they would have had some Chariots, perhaps, they could have responded in a very fast way, be able to punch down get down and punch out this objective. But anyway, great victory for Sultan. Big thanks to him for sending in all these great Domination games. Really been enjoying them, and it's a unique, fun build here. And a very good one, too. Ariel, almost 400 kills, 42,000 damage dealt, 3,500 damage gold value. Very impressive stuff. Orion still does pay for himself. I mean, I said he was a letdown, but at the end of the day, he did enough of what he needed to. Dying, unfortunately, dying was a little bit unfortunate there, but a lot of stuff for the Wood Elves actually proves fairly cost-effective here. Not often you see Wood Elves' melee prowess really come through, but the macro, and unit placement was all really on point for the Wood Elves, which helped them carry to victory. Tomb Scorpion's definitely a solid choice, and the Screaming Skulls did get quite a bit of value, even if they inflicted some friendly fire damage. Skeleton Archers also managed to get some pretty good value back as well, but I think generally you're lacking a little bit in either Tomb Guard or Nehekara Warriors, something a little bit more sturdy than the Skeleton Warriors. Although they are very good, you can out-capture weight Wood Elves pretty significantly with them. They are going to die a lot to a lot of what we've seen in this particular build. They trade well against certain Wood Elf units, but in general, I mean, you don't really take them to trade up in terms of value anyway, but I think there's just, a little bit of over-reliance on certain specific units. I will say, Sepulchral Stalkers, 5,000 damage value, dealing with the Wood Elf characters on multiple summons, but still wasn't quite enough at the end of the day. The speed, I think, of the War Dancers is also a pretty big factor here. And the speed of Nehekara's light cavalry, generally being quite slow, also kind of hurts them, especially on this big domination map like Black Ark. But anyway, that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.